Welcome everyone to this CELPIP Speaking Part 5 Comparing and Persuading Analysis. Now I'm just here in the Speaking Part 5 section of the CELPIP library, and before we get started, I do want to remind you that Speaking Part 5 has more focus on CLB 4 to 6. What does that mean? Well, that means that if you need to get CLB 4, 5, or 6, then you need to do better in this part, or you will have a chance to speak more and speak better in this part than in other parts, okay? That's because speaking part 5 has a more familiar situation or more common situations and easier questions to understand than part 1, part 6, or part 7, okay? So that's why you will have more opportunities to speak and you need to show that you can speak for this part, okay? Now, if you need to get CLB 7 or higher, this part will be easier for you and you can't really show your higher level English knowledge as much as in part 7, okay? And you should speak well for this part because it will be easier, okay? All right, so now also I want to remind you that we have this great Speaking Part 5 Tips and Strategies video, okay? That video will give you more details about how you can answer Part 5 better. Some tips that you can use, some strategies that you can use to answer the question, and some of the tips and strategies which I will use to answer this question, okay? And also, I will be speaking some of those tips and strategies in this example. But if you want to watch that video, it's a great video, and I will leave a link in the description box to that video. Okay? So then, let's get to today's example, hiking footwear. So everyone, you see we have a CLB 5-6 sample and a CLB 7-9 sample. Okay, so you choose the level which is appropriate for you. Then we have in each section the video analysis which you're watching, and we have vocabulary building, both with vocabulary building. Vocabulary building is excellent to improve your vocabulary. We have some words with basic meanings, synonyms, and antonyms. And then this great exercise where you complete the sentence with one word from the list. Okay, great exercise to improve your vocabulary. And then we have grammar building. Grammar building, everyone. For part 5, we need to know our comparatives. How can we compare better? What do we do for adjectives? Okay. And a great practice exercise to improve our comparative language. Okay. So everyone, now some important tips and strategies for part 5. Firstly, everyone, in part 5, we are comparing and persuading. So we should try to use comparative language. Yes, comparative language, using more, less, greater, better. Okay? For example, part 5 is easier than part 7. Okay? Or you can say part 7 is more difficult than part 5. Okay? So it's very important to use comparative language when we are comparing the two options. Secondly, let's remember everyone to try to organize your answer. The more organized that you are, the better. Okay? Higher levels organize their answer more. Okay? We should try to avoid repetition, meaning do not repeat yourself. Let's try to follow a sequence or organize. And of course, try to speak for 1 minute. Okay? In our samples, we will be following a method or a pattern to answer our response. We are going to be introducing the question. It's very good to introduce the question. Okay, to be clear about the question. And then we're going to be using some of these connectors. Firstly, I'd say that my choice. Secondly, and last but not least, we're going to be using this kind of sequence to connect our ideas. Okay? Everyone, I do want to remind you that part 5 has 3 parts. First, you choose your option. For example, here's the question. You have 1 minute. You choose this option or this option. Whichever option. Okay. If you choose this option and then you go to the next part, that will be your choice, you see? And then the computer gives you another choice. Or you can choose the second option here, and that will be your choice right over here. And then the computer will give you the same option. Okay? So then, and you will have another minute to prepare. So the only thing that could be a good tip is for you to just choose the one which you understand more. Maybe you understand this information more, or maybe you understand this information more. It would be better to choose the one you know more. Okay? Let's get started. So then, let's get to today's example, hiking footwear. And everyone, this is example is 5-6, okay? CLB 5-6, okay? So here we are, yes. Part 5, comparing and persuading, preparation time 1 minute, speaking time 1 minute. So as you heard in the tips, you will have approximately 2 minutes to prepare, okay? The first part and the second part. We are already in the second part here, okay? Let me remind you about that. So, it says your friend is in the market for some new footwear for hiking around the parks and in the mountains nearby. He'd like to get the hiking boots. So your friend already chose the hiking boots, okay? But you think the sneakers would be better. So here's your choice, the one you chose. And here are the hiking boots. Persuade him that what you choose is more suitable, okay? So then everyone. So we have here your choice. Sneakers, 150 feather light, thick sole for extra cushioning, power laces for quick fit. Okay? Feather light just means very light. Thick sole, so you see here, this is the sole, this part of the shoe. So thick. It can be narrow or thick. And if it's thick, we have extra cushioning. So more comfortable, right? Power laces. So here, power laces. Over here, power laces for quick fit, okay? And then for the hiking boots, we have $100, 2 pounds. Okay. Thick soles again for tough terrains. Tough terrains means like tough roads or tough ground to walk on. Ground. Ankle high, so they go all the way to your ankle for strong support. Okay. So then, everyone, let's remember that what we want to do is compare the two. And from our guide, okay, I just want to remind you that we want to try to use comparative language. Which one is more comfortable? This one is softer, higher, heavier. I can think of these words. We want to try to use comparative language when we compare the two. Okay, when we compare them, we want to try to use comparative language. Okay, that will be stronger. And then we want to try to organize and give a complete response. The more you organize, the more complete your response and the better comparative, the higher your score, okay? So then, for this response, I am going to be using this structure here, okay? The better that I compare, you can see it has some good comparative language, okay? The better comparison that we do, the higher our score. So I'm going to be trying to use this template to organize better, okay? All right, so let me get to my board here, okay. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to introduce the question. So that's what I'm going to do first. Hello, my friend. I want to persuade you to buy the sneakers over the hiking boots. So I'm telling you that the sneakers are better over the hiking boots. And I want to persuade you. Very clear and direct, okay? Let me remind you, everyone, that the blue here will be the structure I'm using. We can use that anytime. The red will be the main grammar form, and black will be everything else. And in this example, I will use green. I'll highlight that after, green to compare. So we introduced clearly, very good. So now I want to say why the feather light is better than 102 pounds. That's going to be my first idea. Or I'm going to try to say that. Okay, let's see here. Firstly, I think the sneakers are more expensive. They are more expensive. You see? Good. Are more expensive. That's my comparative. But, you see, here's where I'm going to be comparing to the other side. But they are not as heavy as. Are not as heavy as. Another comparative. Not as something, as something. So not as here heavy. As the boots because they are feather light. So you see, not as heavy as. Feather light, 2 pounds. Not as heavy as because they are feather light. So similarly, we can say the boots are not as expensive as. As, okay, that's the comparison. Good comparative language. Good comparative language. So here we have more expensive. Here we can say they are not as heavy as, or we can say they are lighter. Are, okay, we can say lighter. Or they are not, or the boots are heavier. Okay, so different ways to compare. This as something as is a very good comparative. Okay, so why are they not as heavy? Because they are feather light. So they are lighter as well. So very good. Very good idea. Again, we're using comparatives here, but very important. We saw more expensive, but not as heavy as. Okay? So now, the next idea, thick sole for extra cushioning, thick soles for tough terrains. So what are we going to say here? Let's look. Okay? Secondly, I think that the sneakers are much more comfortable. Very good. We can say more comfortable, but we can also say much more comfortable, stronger. Why? Because they have extra cushioning. See? Extra cushioning. And are not heavy like the boots. Heavy, heavy. They look heavy. So, very good comparison again, everyone. Okay, much more comfortable. That's what we want to say. And then we explained why. They have extra cushioning and are not heavy. Because heavy. Very good. So, what about the last one? Again, power laces for quick fit, ankle high for strong support. So we just want to say some comparison about these two. Okay? Lastly, I think that it will be easier to put on the sneakers. Oh, easier. Will be easier to put on. Why? Why easier? Because they have power laces. Okay. Have power laces. But the boots are all the way to your ankle. Ankle high, all the way to your ankle. So here we said it will be easier to put on the sneakers because they are ankle high. Very good. Very good comparison. But the boots, you see. So everyone, here we have a very good answer, which for sure is 6 or more. Okay. Now, let's think, why is it 6? Well, first reason is because we organized very well. Firstly, I think that, but because, secondly, lastly, okay? Very good organization and complete. Secondly, because we made very good comparisons. We compared 3 ideas. We compared why is $150 Featherlight better than $100 £2? We said are more expensive, but they're not as heavy. Very good comparisons. Much more comfortable, heavy like not heavy like the boots. Easier to put on, but the boots are all the way to your ankle. Okay? So, if you can make very good comparisons like this, then you will do very well. Okay? And then the last thing, of course, is the language we use. We use comparative language. More expensive, much more comfortable, not as heavy. Very good one here. Very good. Will be easier to put on. Okay? When we can use comparative language with these ideas, then for sure we will get 6 or more. Now, level 5, we don't need 3 ideas for level 5. even if you say 2 ideas, that will be good for level 5. Okay? As long as you make those really good comparisons, that will be 5. And also, level 5, we don't need to compare exactly like this. We can say the sneakers are better because they are feather light, and also they have extra cushioning, which is more comfortable, and also they have power laces, so it will be easier to put on. Just like that. Not the comparisons back and forth. Okay? So, level 5 doesn't need to be so clear and doesn't need to have so many ideas. 2 ideas are good. Okay? Now, it is speaking, so it's very important that we speak in 1 minute. And when we speak in 1 minute, we need to speak with very good flow and intonation. Flow and intonation. Slowly, clearly, and continuously. Very important, okay? The more flow and intonation, the higher your score. Okay? So, I'm going to now speak this in 1 minute, and everyone, please follow my flow and intonation, okay? So you can see how we can speak it better. Okay, here I go. Hello, my friend. I want to persuade you to buy the sneakers over the hiking boots. Firstly, I think that the sneakers are more expensive, but they are not as heavy as the boots because they are feather light. Secondly, I think that the sneakers are much more comfortable because they have extra cushioning and aren't heavy like the boots. Lastly, I think that it will be easier to put on the sneakers because they have power laces, but the boots are all the way to your ankle. Okay, so you see, we read that in more than 1 minute. Okay, everyone? Now that was very good flow and intonation for this level. Slowly, clearly, continuously, okay? Now, to practice, everyone, what can we do to practice? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to read and understand. We need to read and understand the organization. How are ideas organized? Okay? We need to read and understand how they are connected. We need to read and understand how they are compared. How did we compare those ideas? We need to read and understand that. That's very important. Also, we need to read and understand the language we used. How did we use more expensive, much more comfortable? How did we use not as heavy as? We need to understand the comparative language, okay? And that's very important. We need to read and understand how the answer is organized, how it is compared, and the language. Secondly, we need to read and speak this answer in 1 minute. We need to read and speak it in 1 minute to improve our flow and intonation. We need to speak and this answer in 1 minute. And the more that you can speak it in 1 minute, the more you will improve your flow and intonation. Okay? We need to speak slowly, clearly, continuously in 1 minute. Okay, now lastly, can you speak that answer in 1 minute without looking? Well, the level 6 can, everyone. If you can, then you are level 6 or more. The more that you read and speak that answer, the more that you can say it from your knowledge, not from memory. This is not about memory or memorizing. You need to speak the answer after you read it and speak it to practice your fluent intonation. After you do that, how many times? I don't know. Depends on your level. But you should be able to say, I think that the sneakers are more expensive, but they are much more comfortable. Oh, you see, I didn't really say comfortable there. Okay, not as heavy. Yeah. See, even I couldn't really say it there, but I read it again. And then I think that the sneakers are more expensive, but they aren't as heavy as the boots. Because you see, because they are feather light. So, the more that you read and practice reading and speaking that, then you will be able to say this answer without reading. Okay, very good. So for that, everyone, I will be leaving a link in the description box to our sample question. There it is. Okay. All right. And you can practice reading and understanding, reading and speaking, and then reading without looking. Okay, everyone? And also, everyone, let's not forget about CELPIP Library. CELPIP Library has over 50 examples of speaking part 5. And these examples will really help you boost your level, increase your level. Okay, everyone? So, with CELPIP code 79, again, that is discount code CELPIP79, you can get a 3-month subscription for only $10.99. That's a great deal, everyone, and I strongly recommend it. So don't forget, practice makes perfect.